Ladies and good-looking losers. Those of you who know the website Good Looking Loser, or Chris from Good Looking Loser, you will know that he has had a huge impact on my life. I really wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for Chris from Good Looking Loser. And a lot of the concepts that I learned from his website, 8 or so years ago, still stick with me today. And a lot of these concepts are concepts that I've sort of tweaked and evolved, and I use them with my coaching clients. None of them more so than this particular one, which is one of, in my opinion, his absolute best articles, which is this process will strip you down and to force you to confront your real issues. And so we're going to have a pretty chill episode today, and we're going to go through and read this out, and I will give my live reaction to this particular article. Again, one of my favorite articles of all time. And yeah, let's have a little bit of fun with this. So, face and smash your real issues. Chris says, this is one of my favorite topics. As much as I like helping guys get laid, I also like helping guys get their shit together. Maybe more. Yeah, this is something I found myself. The more content that I started doing, I started out just like Chris did, helping guys have more sex and have better sex. And the further I went in that journey to produce content and help people and do coaching, the more I realized it's the mental side of things that guys really struggle with the most. And if you can work through some of that mental stuff, the actual having sex or making money or losing weight or whatever it is, the goals become a lot easier. I'll keep reading. He says, God knows that I have really had to work on myself to get the results that I have. I wasn't the usually super positive guy that I am today when I first started this stuff. A lot of guys get into this whole, I want to bang lots of hot chicks, or whatever goal you might be into, thing because they think it will solve a lot of their problems. Don't get me wrong, banging chicks, or making money, or whatever your goals are, and having endless supply of hot pussy at your disposal will enrich your life a ton. There is no denying that, especially if you've been undersexed for years. It won't solve all of your problems, though. It actually does the opposite for a while. It will bring your problems to the surface and force you to kill them if you want to continue to progress. Furthermore, it really isn't possible to have an endless supply of hot pussy to snack on. What a wordsmith. Until you at least get most of your issues handled. And this, guys, is something that so many people realize when they first get into self-improvement. And if having lots of sex isn't your current goal, then just insert whatever goal, is your current goal. So this article still applies to whatever goal that you might be working on. But so many guys or so many people will get into a goal, and all this shit comes to the surface when you first start working on it. All of your deepest insecurities, your deepest fears, your deepest concerns, the stuff that you've sort of squashed down inside yourself and buried very deep, it rises to the surface. And if you're trying to achieve some big goals, or if you're trying to be a successful human being who wants to be above average and go against the norm, a lot of these insecurities and these pain points come up. It's inevitable that it will come up. Obviously, that's the point of this article, but I've seen that so much in my own coaching as well, where guys will get into this stuff and all this shit just bottles up to the surface. And a lot of the time I see guys and girls that they think it's a bad thing, and they kind of beat themselves up for having insecurities or having feelings or having doubts or fears. And I always drill it into them. That's part of this process. This process is essentially, as in self-improvement and achieving goals, is essentially a counseling session for yourself. It's all of the shit that you haven't dealt with, the shit that every normal person has, by the way, but the average person just never brings it to the surface because they're not going for big goals that scare them. They're living a comfortable, pretty safe, easy life. They don't have to deal with all the shit that they've buried deep. But if you're going for big goals, that stuff comes up. And so again, I've seen it time and time again. All the shit comes to the surface. A guy or a girl freaks out and goes, oh shit, why is this so difficult? It's just because that's part of this process. In other words, it's completely fucking normal. I'll continue reading. Chris goes on to say, I've seen it 1,000 times. A guy gets into this thinking that this process is about picking up women and getting pussy. If they learn this stuff and just do it, everything will fall into place. The stuff they have to overcome is, bad body language and approach anxiety. And while that may be true, that's not usually how it works. What most guys don't expect is this whole process regardless of how long it takes, strips them down, exposes their deepest insecurities, and forces them to tackle their issues before they have any sort of major, consistent, repeatable success. And I have seen that with my coaching clients, like I said, so many times. Shit that they didn't even know was very deep comes to the surface. And as I always say to them, and I'm saying it to you again, I'm going to repeat this 100 times in this podcast, that is a good thing. That is by design. That is what this process is. Essentially, for you to be successful, for you to make a lot of money or have an amazing sex life or lose weight or be famous or whatever it is that you might want to do, you are going to have to deal with the stuff that you've bottled up. You're going to have to. And so it's not a bad thing when that stuff comes up. It is literally part of the process. It is literally mandatory. It is literally required that you face your fears, that you address your doubts and insecurities, that you deal with the stuff that every human being has inside of them, but 99% of people just never really have a chance to be tested. They never have a chance for that stuff to come up. I'll continue reading. He goes on to say, this process of self-improvement to get pussy, or again, make money, whatever else, causes everything to surface, whether you like it or not. Yeah, you can't suppress it. You can't stop this process from happening. Again, it's by design. It's a good thing. Picking up women, being a player, or whatever the fuck you call it, causes nearly every and all of your psychological issues to surface. Psychological issues include, and I won't read all of these out, but he has written basically everything that might come up. A lot of this is stuff that you didn't even know was bothering you. You know, insecurities about your penis size, inability to manage time, bad relationship with your parents. You might say, what the fuck does my relationship with my parents have to do with me making money? Well, humble yourself, because life is going to humble you. As soon as you start working on your goals, that shit's going to come up. You know, your parents will say something that really ticks you off one week and you're just right in this really stressful moment. You know, you're trying to make money or you're trying to have sex or you're trying to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. Shit will come up. Or there will be a point of financial insecurity. You know, maybe you go on a date with a girl. She goes, hey, like, are you going to buy me a drink? And all of the insecurities come up. And you have to deal with them. You have to go through this whole metamorphosis, this process of being okay with not spending money, you know, all of this kind of shit. You have to eventually reach this point of peace, and that can take weeks, months, you know, sometimes years. And finally you get to a point of peace and you're like, wow, I overcame this financial insecurity. I myself have gone through, as I'm reading this list, basically fucking everything that he has written here. I didn't have a bad relationship with my parents, but I guess I wasn't super close to my father, and I've talked about that as part of the reason why I was depressed and suicidal when I was in my 20s. So yeah, as I'm reading, literally everything here. Work ethic issues, yes, absolutely. Past physical abuse, yep, that's something I went through. Jesus Christ, like everything he's written here. Self-loathing, absolutely. Substance abuse problems, yep. Alcoholism, absolutely. Like everything that he has written here is stuff that came up with me. Nice guy syndrome, oh my God, yes, that was me. So this process like makes all of that come to the surface, as he says. If you have any of these problems, they will all come to the surface. And he says, I literally thought of those 31 things in 5 minutes and 17 seconds. Yeah, and if I sat here and thought for like 5 minutes, I could come up with 30 as well. Like of all the shit that's come up that I've had to deal with and my coaching clients have had to deal with, I won't say had to, gotten to deal with. Because it is a gift, and that's kind of the point of this article. It's a gift that this stuff comes up. Because again, the average person doesn't deal with all of their insecurities and their doubts and their fears, and they kind of just go through life almost as a slave to their own emotions and their ego and their insecurities. That shit controls you subconsciously, whether you realize it or not. If you're insecure about money, anytime someone talks about money, you're going to have a fucking reaction. You're going to, I don't feel good. That's controlling you. That's not you in a place of stoicism and power and peace where you get to choose how you react. That decision of how you react is being chosen for you because you haven't faced that insecurity. So I'll continue reading. He says, you know, things like I don't know what to say and low confidence are simply a byproduct of one or more of the above. Yes, it is. It's okay, though. That's what we're shooting for. There's really no process that strips your life down and raw, quite like, okay, I want to fuck lots of hot chicks, so teach me how. I will say, and maybe Chris might agree with this at this point in time, now that he's had a lot more years working on business. I'll say business definitely stripped me down quite a lot, but I can see that for a lot of guys, relationships strip them down just as much, if not more. So business is another one that I would throw in there, like trying to make a lot of money, trying to say to yourself, I am worth X amount of dollars. I can help people. That really does strip you down as well, but relationships definitely do. He says that's what it's supposed to do. That's what happened to me once I gave it a chance, and that's how I design our program. He's talking about his approach anxiety program, which I myself went through. And yes, the program that he wrote to give yourself the ability to hit on women, yeah, it really does strip you down. And in a gentle way, like he holds your hand the entire time, but like just the process of going outside and talking to women, or again, if you're working on business, just the process of saying to people, hey, this is my product. Will you give me this much money for it? That really requires a lot of vulnerability. It really does, because some people will say no. Content creation is another one. I would say content creation, as much as trying to have sex with women or men, content creation really, really, really does strip you down as well, because you're burying your heart and soul. You're putting your heart and soul out there into the public sphere, and you will get negative criticism. You will have people telling you to kill yourself, no matter what you're doing. Even if you literally do like what I'm doing, where it's like positive motivational content, you will have people telling you to kill yourself. Not very often, but like I've had it, 5 times. And so these processes of working on big goals, they all really strip you down and force you to confront this shit. So he goes on to say the issues will obviously vary from person to person. Yeah, everybody's journey is completely unique. Some of you guys are in for a fucking battle with yourself. Yeah. We'll be there for you if you are willing to fight. If nothing else, it's better to fight that battle. You can fight bubbles as well, but it's better to fight that battle than to slowly die on your fucking knees or live in pathetic denial. This was never about girls anyway. This is about you. Yeah, I really want to highlight that. Any of you, no matter what goals that you are working on, whether that's making money, having a lot of sex, losing weight, making friends, having an impact on the world, you think it's about that external thing. You think it's about achieving that goal. A lot of you listening are going to say like, well, yeah, the goal is to have sex with women. So yes, that is what I care about. Or yes, dude, I want to get rich. So money is what I care about. You think that. But you'll find as you go through this process, and especially as you reach that goal and get to the end, it's about the process. It sounds so cliche, but it absolutely is. It's not about having a lot of sex. It's about becoming the man who can have a lot of sex. It's not about having a lot of money. It's about becoming the man or woman who can earn a lot of money. It's about who you have to become, the hero's journey you have to go on, the transformation that you have to, go through in order to get to that point where you, quote, deserve, and I don't like that word, but where you earn that thing that you're going for. So it's not about the goal, even though you think that's what it is. That's what is driving you. But you'll find out as you go a lot further, oh shit, this was about the journey. This was about self-improvement. It's why I obsess about self-improvement in every freaking video that I do. It's why I, in my Tinder guide, for instance, talk non-stop. The entire first chapter is about self-improvement. So is the final chapter, the retention guide, how to, keep women around. Both of those, I talk so much about becoming a man that women will want to be with. Become a man that women want to stick around with. Improve yourself. You are the product. Make yourself the best possible product you can be, and then people will want you. So it's about the journey that you go on. He goes on to say, believe me though, the highest highs are way more significant than the lowest lows. Absolutely. The good news is these issues can be handled. Each and every one of them, I promise you. Sometimes they appear in bunches, but a lot of the time they appear as isolated issues that are part of a whole. The better news is you don't have to completely fix yourself to get a lot of pussy. Ideally, you'll do both. I don't want to make this out to be any harder than it actually is. As I speak, thousands of people are getting laid, thousands of girls are sucking dicks. I really want to highlight what he says here. You don't have to completely fix yourself to get lots of pussy. In other words, give yourself permission to suck. That is the first article I ever wrote. It is the second podcast I ever recorded. Give yourself permission to suck. You don't have to be this alpha male, Chad, God, perfect human being in order to have a really amazing, mind-blowing sex life. I am obviously not maxed out. I don't look as good as I possibly could. I don't have as much muscle as I could. I'm not as lean as I could be. There are a million things I could do to improve myself physically, let alone with confidence, let alone with conversational skills, let alone with there are so many things I could do to max myself out. And everything that I have achieved in terms of sex and amazing sex life that I have in my, 5-year relationship with my wonderful girlfriend, Imogen, all of that shit and all the threesomes that we have with girls and all of that, I did all that while not being perfect, while not maxing myself out. The same with business. There are so many things I could do better when it comes to coaching, when it comes to making money, when it comes to my content. I could list you an endless list. There would be hundreds of things on there that I could do better. But look at all that I've been able to achieve. You don't have to be perfect. And I think a lot of people, they have this idea of this top 0.0001% alpha male perfect god that they have to become in order to achieve success. And it's like, no, you don't. The person you are right now is capable of it. You're probably just not doing the work. 99.9% of the time, when a guy or a girl says, hey, I'm not achieving my goals, it's because you're just not taking enough action. You're not doing the work. And you think it's because you're not good enough, or you're not attractive enough, or you're not this. It's like 99% of the time, you are more than good enough. You're just not believing that you're good enough. And you don't have to believe it, but just take the action anyway. I'll go on to read. My attitude towards this is understand, accept, and embrace this challenge. This is really the only attitude you can have if you want to handle this shit as fast as possible. And the fourth step is overcome it. Most people simply understand their issues. That's about as far as they get. More good news. Again, you don't have to master yourself to get buckets of hot, wet, young pussy, or money, or fame, or, changing the world, helping people, whatever it is that you might want to do. God knows I haven't. Yeah, and neither have I. I haven't mastered myself. Neither has Chris. Chris will be the first. Chris is one of the most open and vulnerable people. And he says this in lots of his content. He's like, I'm not fucking perfect. I have lots of doubts and insecurities and fears and concerns. And I have never maxed myself out or mastered myself. I took the action that was required to get the things that I wanted. I just took action. That's it. It wasn't perfect. I wasn't even good at it. Sometimes I just took action. My journey is exactly the same. So is all of my coaching clients. All of the testimonials that you might have seen on my channel of guys who've done amazing things. In those testimonials, in those interviews, they talk about how they're not perfect and success came quicker than they thought that it would just because they took some action. So he goes on to say, but you will have to take care of a lot of it if you want to have regular success. So he's talking about a lot of your issues and the things that will come up. In other words, you can't bury the stuff that will come up. When your doubts come up, you need to face them. It can be difficult. You might need support. I'm here if you need that. Coaching program is here if you need that. The YouTube comments are here if you need that. We have forums for free if you need some support. But you will have to deal with the insecurities, the doubts, the fears. You don't have to conquer them. As he says, you don't have to master yourself, but you do want to start working through them. You have to at least start facing them. So he goes on to say, when you begin to have success, that will handle a lot of it. Yeah, just achieving goals helps that's not the right word. Whatever, helps relieve a lot of the doubts and insecurities that you have. Just achieving big goals makes you feel like, wow, maybe I'm not such a fucking loser. Maybe I do deserve love. Maybe I am good enough. So success really begets more success. He goes on to say, keep in mind that very, very, very few people ever undertake and see through a process like this, self-improvement or goals. This process isn't meant for everyone either. I used to think otherwise, but some guys are actually better off sitting on the sidelines. I personally don't believe that. Maybe I can do a separate video on that at some point. However, I do agree with his general sentiment, which is the average person or a lot of average people won't ever improve themselves. I personally think that they are capable of improving. I think that they can make it. But the first step is you have to want to improve. And if someone doesn't want to, I can't fucking tie them down and inject them with some serum that will make them want to improve themselves, can I? And I wouldn't want to do that anyway. I want everybody to do what they want to do. And a lot of people are happy. They want to be safe and complacent and have the average life. There's comfort in that. It's safe. It's already I say this a lot. It's already a pre-written blueprint for your life that the vast majority of people outside have experience with, have evidence that it's decent. The average life isn't bad, especially in the Western world. The average life is fucking amazing. It's great. It's not for us. If you're watching this content, you probably don't want the average life, but there's nothing wrong with it. And so those people want that. They're happy with that. And so, great. But you're probably not like that. You probably want something more. You probably want something quite grand. You probably have a very big or very high expectations of your life and what you're capable of achieving. Good. Skip that. Yeah, he goes on to say, like, I generally speaking, this is all his way of saying, I generally speaking recommend that you just start taking action and you will deal with these insecurities and these doubts and these fears and these trauma and all of that shit. You'll deal with that as you go. But he does go on to give a caveat and say, like, if you have some sort of major deep trauma, like I would go to a counselor or a coach, I'm happy to help, but I would go to someone and work through that. But essentially what he's saying with all of this stuff here is just like throwing yourself into an approach anxiety program or just starting a business or just going to meetup.com and going to some meetup events and starting the process of socializing, just taking baby steps basically is the most effective way of working through some of your deep-seated insecurities and fears and vulnerabilities and all of that shit. So like actually starting the process. He goes on to say in this article, he talks about some of his own issues that he had to deal with after he dealt with his first issue of denial. So his first big one was negativity. And oh my God, can I relate to this? I was one of the most negative people in the entire fucking universe. And a book that probably helped me the most is a book called You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. It is a book that I have recommended so many thousands of times at this point. That book, more than anything, really fucking changed my life. It really did. So I'll read what he says. If there's one thing in me that has absolutely positively changed, it is this one. I used to be a very negative person. I got this largely from my family while growing up. Most guys have this passed down from their parents, even if their parents are really successful people. Focusing on the negative, what's wrong in the world, what's bad about something, what I did wrong. I accomplished blah, 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 but blah, blah, blah. My life is good, but blah, blah, blah. I was a very negative person and engaged in endless negative self-talk. I thought that being hard on myself was a good, productive thing. It's not. Yeah, I agree with that. At least not in the way I did it. Yeah, I've said this many times. I did a podcast called what was it called? It was something like be hard on yourself in a positive way, not a negative way. So you can be hard on yourself, but you do it in a positive way. So what that looks like is you say, man, I am capable of way more than this. I know I can do better than this. This is like nowhere near what I can do. I should be doing or I could do 10 times this. See how that's positive? As opposed to, man, I suck. What the fuck is wrong with me? I'm a loser. This isn't good enough. I suck. This is just pathetic. Well, you're just like trying to push yourself down and make yourself feel like shit. So try and raise yourself up and say, I am capable of way more than this. Basically, you're running towards something. The fact that you can do more, you're running towards that. I can do way more than this. Rather than saying, this sucks. I'm a loser. I fucking suck. So I have a podcast on that. You can go onto my Spotify channel and just search for the word positive and you'll see that podcast. But it's a concept I've talked about a lot, and Good Looking Loser used to talk about it a lot as well, being positive. And his whole blog is pretty fucking positive. I don't think there's a single negative article on his entire website, at least not one that I ever saw. And I've read all of his articles multiple times. And so he was always the king of positivity. He goes on to say then there were times that I didn't even know I was being negative. Either way, I had a disease that was killing my success and attracting things I wanted to avoid. This was a motherfucker to beat. Was for me too. It is probably my biggest accomplishment to date, even more so than banging well over 100 usually really hot chicks. I believe he's had a lot more sex than that since writing this article. Not that it's about the number. I have a hypersensitive negativity radar that gets set off so quickly now. Yeah, I do too. You guys might not know, but I think I've said this a few times. Anytime there's a negative comment on my YouTube channel, I just immediately mute that person. So no one is ever going to see their comment ever again. And I'm not talking about a little bit of negativity. I'm talking about someone that's like a Debbie Downer, or they're just complaining, or just very negative, or they're trying to shit on somebody else's goals or something like that. I just mute that person. So none of us will ever see their comment ever again. On the forums, we would never even let someone like that sign up for the forums. They'd be banned immediately. In my coaching group, you'd never even make it into the coaching group if you were negative. And again, I'm not talking about a little bit of negativity. I'm talking about if you're very negative, you just believe it's all doom and gloom and you're black pill kind of, you have that very toxic negative mindset where you think everything's hopeless and Even hopelessness is fine as long as you're trying to improve it. So he says he has a hypersensitive negative radar. If I have some sort of undesirable thought go through my head, I'll usually put a stop to it immediately. Yeah, I do the same thing. When I see an unhappy married couple arguing about some meaningless issue, I cringe. Yeah, me too. Me too. Even if someone makes a seemingly harmless comment like, the weather outside sucks. Yeah, I've used that exact example many times, right? On my channel and on my Spotify podcast where I've said, you could tell a story of like, man, it's raining, it sucks. It's like you could literally tell a story of how it's a good thing that it's raining. It's giving sustenance to the farms that raise our livestock and raise our food production and all of that kind of stuff. We wouldn't be able to eat if it didn't rain. Like, thank you, rain. What a beautiful blessing that you're bestowing upon this great earth. So you can tell a story. Everything can be whatever you want it to be. It can be negative, or you can tell a story of how it's positive. And Good Looking Loser definitely embraced that. I want no part of any bullshit I can't control. Yes, what he is talking about here is stoicism. Accepting that there are some things that you just can't control. It's why I find it hilarious. Any of you that ever vote, and maybe I'm calling some of you out here, you can do whatever you want to do, but any of you that vote in an election, it's like, to me, that's just like, what the fuck are you doing with your time? Like, I always in my channel speak to you, the individual, rather than a group of people. And so I understand if a group of people came together and voted for a certain presidential candidate or whatever, sure, that has a minor impact. But I don't give a fuck about groups. I care about you, the person listening, and you, the one individual person listening. Why the fuck are you voting? Again, do whatever you want. Please, if you enjoy voting, continue to do so. Don't listen to my boomer fucking bald-headed opinion. But I do giggle every time someone says, I voted today. And I'm like, great, you made no difference. You could have spent that, 5 hours or however long it took you waiting in the fucking line. What if you'd spent that working on a business? What if you'd spent that talking to the opposite sex? What if you'd spent that in the gym? What if you'd spent that with your friends? What if you'd spent that making better friends? What if you'd spent that doing literally anything that wasn't standing in a line voting for a joke of a presidential election, which every fucking presidential election is? But separate issue. In fact, I want no part of any bullshit I can control, because I'll control it and fucking fix it. Yes, every problem has a solution. How many times have you guys heard me say that? Have a winner's mindset. Focus on winning. Focus on solving your problems rather than complaining about, losing, rather than complaining about problems. Obsess about the solutions. Don't look at the problems. Obviously, you have to look at the problem, but don't obsess about the problem. There's no use thinking about, dwelling on it, and masturbating all over it. Absolutely. Good Looking Loser, you smart little individual. There is a difference between being negative and being realistic. Usually only a positive person can tell that difference, however. Yeah, there is a weird thing in human psychology where if you're just an eternal negative, Debbie Downer, you think you're being realistic, but you have no fucking idea what realistic is. Everything you think, everything you say, it's like you filter it in through this dark cloud, this cloud of negativity, and you're not even looking at the world as it really is. You think that you are, but you're not. Remember, I'm someone that was like this for, like 10 years or so. I was depressed and suicidal. And I thought, in fact, I was convinced that I was a realist. I was convinced that the way I viewed the world was correct, and anyone who was positive or optimistic was a stupid hippie with their head in the clouds, and they're fucking stupid, and they don't know that the world is suffering and blah, blah, blah. Since embracing and learning to have a more positive mindset, and now always being positive, or at least 99% of the time I'm positive, I see the world now for what it is. I can see now that I have a choice in every moment to call the world negative, or to call external events negative or bad or evil or wrong or shouldn't happen or whatever, or I can choose to say that they're good and wonderful and amazing and they're adding to my life. I have that choice. And so I am in the position of realist. I'm in the position of seeing that I'm at two divergent pathways, and I can say this thing is bad or this thing is good, and then which one do I want to pick? Well, when I pick the one that says this is bad, I feel bad. I feel less empowered. I am less likely to get my goals. I feel negative. I feel unhappy. I feel shit. And I take less action. I achieve less. It sucks. When I decide that I want to choose the positive route, or choose to say this thing is positive and choose to learn from it and grow from it and see it as an opportunity. Every problem is an opportunity in disguise. When I go down that pathway of positivity, I achieve more. I feel happier. I am more connected to other people, to myself, to the world. My goals come a lot easier with less effort, more efficient, and much quicker. And with less expenditure on my part, less effort, less energy, less all of that kind of shit. So I'm going to pick the positive one basically all of the time, because why the fuck wouldn't I? But I'm acutely aware that I am doing so. I'm acutely aware that I am choosing, it is a choice, choosing to tell a positive story. And so I'm not a naive idiot. Again, when I was depressed, I used to think everyone who was positive was a naive idiot. No, no. Most of them are choosing to be positive. It is the person who is couched or drowning in negativity who is usually the naive idiot, because they can't even envision a world of positivity. They can't even imagine telling a positive story about this negative event or this event that they're calling negative. They can't even imagine being positive. And so they don't have both sides of the equation. They don't have both sides of the coin. So I love that he talks about this stuff. But yeah, man, if you want to be a realist and then choose which option you go with, either negative or positive in every moment, fucking beautiful. But to sit there and be a negative person all the time and then say, I know how the world really is. No, you don't. You don't know anything. You're a fucking child who has one viewpoint and you haven't considered the other viewpoint of like, this could be a good thing. And so that's kind of one of the missions of my content, of my channel, is to help you guys reframe things, to help you realize that you can phrase things in a positive way. You can use positive motivation. You can see the world as an opportunity rather than suffering or a curse or evil or bad or whatever sort of that negative mindset of yours wants you to believe. So he goes on to say, I couldn't tell the difference when I was a negative thinking, bitter, unhappy steroid time bomb. Yeah, so he couldn't tell the difference between being negative and being realistic. Yeah, because you can't. Because all you can see is negativity. It's like you're ideologically possessed by negativity. Everything filters in through your filter of negativity, and you can't ever see anything in a positive way. To the point where you will see someone do something positive, and you'll find a negative fucking spin for it. You can't even see the positive in anything. But at least the person who's positive all the time, they can see the negative. Like, I will freely admit, I will freely sit here, and I've done this so many times, and say, yeah, there's lots of things in the world that I could tell a story about how that sucks, that's awful, that's suffering, that's horrible. Death, despair, misery, poverty, war, lies, all of that kind of stuff. I can see that. I know it's there. I'm just not going to obsess about it because I don't feel good when I do. It doesn't empower me when I do. It doesn't help any of you when I do. It contributes nothing that I want to my life. So I don't do it. But I can see it. But again, the negative person can't even see the positivity. So yeah, I really love all of this stuff. Good Looking Loser has so much fucking wisdom, you guys. Like, it wasn't just a blog about having sex. It appeared to be that, but like, holy crap, this guy was like a modern day philosopher. Your thoughts determine how you feel. Yeah, look at that for some fucking philosophy. How many times have you guys heard me do concepts or talk about concepts exactly like this, right? Like, you're in control of the story that you tell about your own life and about external events. The stories that you tell determine how you feel. Your thoughts determine how you feel. You can control your thoughts if you get a hold of them. Again, a really good book to start with is You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought. So Chris goes on to say, understand, accept, embrace, and overcome it. It takes some time, though. Yeah, it does. Like, you won't be perfect with this. Chris wasn't perfect with this. It took me quite a while to become positive. You can go to my website and just search for my depression article, or you can watch on my YouTube channel my depression video where I talk about how I became an optimist, how I trained myself to be an optimist, and it did take a little bit of time. It took some repetition. Negativity manifests itself and slows down your process in several ways. For one, it is easy to get down on yourself, which is not motivating. For two, it's easy to lose sight of why you're putting in the work, which is to have fun regardless of if that fun pays off now or later. Three, negative thoughts that run rampant prevent your brain from processing positive and productive thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some people that are very caught up in negative thinking that will achieve great things. And maybe, some of you might be able to relate to this. You'll be making progress. You'll do some shit that you never in the past could have thought you would be capable of. And now you're doing it, which is amazing. But you will then add a but onto the end of that. So you'll say, yeah, I talked to 15 girls this week, but I didn't have sex with any of them. Or but I should have talked to 30. Or but I'm still a loser. Or but I don't feel better. Yeah, because you have an addiction to negativity, and that's okay. You can heal that. You can work through that. That's part of what my coaching, what I do with my guys in the coaching. It's obviously one of the focuses of this channel. Books like You Can't Afford the Luxury of a Negative Thought, it's the focus of that. But, if you have an addiction to negativity, yeah, you'll just add a but to every single goal that you ever achieve, and you never actually get to fucking process the positive things that happen or be grateful for the things that happen. He goes on to say, for 4, and least significantly, hot chicks that sometimes his grammar wasn't perfect. Hot chicks that have a choice don't want to be around. Okay, yeah, I get it now. Hot chicks that have a choice don't want to be around a negative, bitter person. Absolutely. And let's zoom out a little bit and apply it to other things. People who could potentially coach you and mentor you don't want to be around a negative, bitter person. I don't want you in my audience. I'll help you if you say I'm negative and I'm bitter. Can you please help me? But I'm saying if you have an addiction to being, if you want to be negative and bitter, and if you don't want to overcome it, I'm just going to mute you on my channel. Like, I'm never going to see your shit. If you send me an email, and sometimes I get them where people will just argue with me and be like, you say that everyone can change, but no, they can't. You're wrong. Blah. I just read the first sentence of that and I'd be like, bye. Like, you want to be negative. You want to be unhappy. You want to be bitter. I'm trying to make you happy and you are arguing with me. I'm trying to help you and you are standing in my way. You are standing in the way of me helping you. So you don't want help. Bye. Like, I'm not interested. I have a limited amount of time on this earth, a limited number of minutes in the day. I'm going to spend them on people that want help, that are negative and bitter, but want to overcome that. Or say, like, I'm a negative, bitter motherfucker. Please help me. I don't want to be like this. It hurts. I don't like it. And anyone that you might run into, like people that you might potentially be friends with, happy, well-adjusted people, generally speaking, don't want to be around negative, bitter people. People of the opposite gender don't want to be around someone who's negative and bitter unless they are negative and bitter themselves, or they have low self-esteem, or they don't have many options, blah, blah, blah. That's why he says hot chicks that have a choice, really anyone that has a choice, doesn't want to be around a negative, bitter person. That is one of the things I screen the hardest for in my coaching program, in my relationships and the girls that we sleep with, in my friends, absolutely. Even in my family are all very positive, but if they weren't, I'd be like cutting off fucking communication. I'd be like, I'm not interested in you if you're negative. Like, you're my family and I love you and I'll see you once a year for Christmas or whatever, but I'm not going to fucking spend time with you. And so if you are addicted or if you want to be negative and bitter, you have to understand you're pushing away all of the people that might be able to help you. And you are only going to be left with the people that are negative or bitter like you, or that will put up with your shit. Because anyone that has any modicum of choice, anyone that has any even remote abundance, isn't going to put up with your shit when they can go and put up with someone who's happy. And again, if you are a very negative or bitter person, fucking beautiful that you recognize that. Start taking some of the steps if you want to. It's not up to me to tell you what you want to do. But if you want to, start taking the steps towards becoming more of an optimist, or at least becoming a little bit more neutral. You don't even have to be Mr. Positive. Just be Mr. Neutral. Just don't be so fucking negative. Be slightly less negative. Congratulations, that's progress. Just keep working on being slightly less negative until you get to a point where you can be neutral, where you can just say things as they are. So instead of saying, it's raining today and that sucks and I hate the bad weather, if you can just say it neutrally, like, it is raining today. Congratulations. That's fucking neutral. That is such a step up from negativity. And so here's another thing to think. If you're someone who is perpetually negative and bitter and you find that people are moving away from you, you talk to people in your workplace and they seem to just always be making an excuse to leave the conversation. Nobody wants to be your fucking friend. If you can sense that in yourself, try just shutting your fucking mouth every time you think of saying something negative. Like, you have the thought and you're about to open your mouth and complain. Just try shutting the fuck up. Now, I'm trying to say that in a loving way. Literally, just try shutting the fuck up. Just go, no, I'm not going to say anything. I'll just say nothing. And then you'll see other people around you will go, oh, well, at least this person is less negative now. They're very quiet all of a sudden, but I don't mind quiet. Quiet's nice. Quiet's cool. I like quiet. At least they don't make me feel like shit when I listen to what they have to say. At least they don't drag me fucking down and leech the life force out of me, because that's what you're doing. If you're a negative, bitter person who's addicted to the negativity and the bitterness, if you're stuck in it, you are a leech that sucks the lifeblood and the life force and the energy out of a room. It's like someone dropped a fat fucking fart in the corner of the room and everyone's just like, oh, fuck, oh, I don't like this. That's you if you're very negative and bitter. Like, you're sucking the lifeblood out. People just don't like you. You walk into a room and people are like, fuck this guy or this girl. God damn it. So, again, no hate if that's you. I respect the fact that you're able to recognize that's you if that is you. But I would recommend you start taking some of the actions, all the things that I talk about, the books that I recommend. Read Loving What Is by Byron Katie. Go see a counselor. Sign up for my coaching program if you want. Leave a comment. Join our forums. Whatever you need to do, start the self-improvement journey and start moving towards the person that you deserve to be, which is at the very least neutral, if not positive and loving and happy and joyful. Again, you don't have to be happy and positive and joyful. I get that that can be a lot of pressure for some of you. Just try being a little bit less negative, a tiny bit, 5% less negative. Can you do that? Yes, you can. So just start there. So he goes on to say 98% of the girls that I've slept with are super positive people. Yeah, and at this point in my life, 100% of the girls that I sleep with are super positive. I will not go anywhere near someone who is not super positive and happy. And that doesn't mean they have to be positive and happy and perfect all the time. I'm not. But they have to at least have like a positive mindset. And I've dated some women like this, or we have dated some women like this, where they're negative, but they're working on it. And so they don't sit there and feel sorry for themselves and complain. They recognize that they're negative and they go like, I'm working on it. I'm reading this book. I would appreciate any tips you could give me on being more positive. I'd love to know how you, Andy, became more positive and you, Imogen, became more positive. I'm working on that. We respect that. I respect the shit out of someone who's like, I'm working on this thing. And so, again, I really want to underline, none of this is an attack on anyone who's negative. And if you find yourself negative or you hate women or you're bitter or whatever, I'm not talking about you. If you're trying to work through that, or if you recognize it and say, I think I would like to be just a little bit more neutral or a little bit more positive, you have my fucking untold respect. But if you're someone that's like, hey, I'm bitter and, I'm a realist and I'm a negative person, but I'm actually a realist, the world sucks. It's like, goodbye. I'm not interested. Thank you. You may as well be a fucking guy that I'm trying to have sex with. That was a terribly worded analogy. What I'm trying to say is, as little interest as I have in having sex with a man, which I have zero interest in, that's how little interest I have in talking to someone who wants to be negative. Like, I literally have been in conversations, at gatherings and parties and stuff where someone's really negative. I just literally fucking walk off. Like, I try and help them a little bit. I'll try and gently guide it towards positivity. But if they just keep being negative and keep complaining, I'm just like, I gotta go. And I'll just fucking walk off and go talk to someone else. I have zero interest in that shit. Absolutely zero. So he goes on to say that he had a lot of insecurities about his looks and body image issues. And I probably won't read all of this out. I will leave a link in the description where you can go and read this article. But he talks about a lot of the insecurities that he had. And I had a lot of my own insecurities. I started out as someone who was very overweight and very fat. I lost a lot of weight. I lost 77 pounds. I had zero muscle and I was very insecure about that. I was balding. Now I've obviously shaved it off, but I had a very bad receding hairline and very thin hair here. And I was so deeply insecure about that. And this process of working on my goals forced me to confront that shit. I had to lose weight. I had to learn to love my body. I had to learn to be okay with what I have, because losing weight and gaining muscle is a long-term project. And so part of that project means, okay, well, I'm not going to get there for a couple of years. I need to be okay for those years. I can't just sit there for those years and hate myself every second of every day. That's not sustainable and it doesn't feel good. And so there's an interesting sort of thing that goes on when you're working on your body, when you lose weight or you're gaining muscle or whatever it is, where on the one hand, you kind of acknowledge that you want your body to be better, but you don't want to go so far in that direction that you sort of hate your body. So there's kind of two things going on at once. You're saying, I want my body to be better, but I have to be okay with it as it is now because I'm stuck in my body right this second. A couple of months from now, sure, my body will look a bit better, and years from now, my body will look amazing. But I don't just get to leapfrog to that moment in time. I can't just teleport to the future. I can't step into a time machine and just fast forward and hurry up and get there. I have to be okay with every single day of that progress. I have to be okay with the journey. And so really interesting thing happens when these insecurities come up. You have to kind of make peace with them and sort of be okay with the fact that for a lot of you, your goals are going to take years, sometimes decades if you have a big goal. If you want to be a multi-millionaire, that might take it depends on what you're doing. That could take that could take up to 10 years. If you're wanting to have an amazing sex life, that took me probably 5 years of working on it okay, it's probably more like 4 years of working on it before I really felt like, oh shit, like I have an amazing, elite, holy crap sex life. That took me like 4 years. That's a long time to be waiting. And so I had to learn to be okay with every step of the journey and not just want to fast forward myself to the end. He goes on to say he had major issues and conflict with non-supportive friends. Yep, I've talked about this a lot. I have an article on my website called Surround Yourself by Positive People. I think that's what I called it. And essentially the point of the article was sometimes you have to cut out some of your friends or family members or just spend less time with them because maybe they're not healthy for you. Or maybe you have, as Chris says, maybe you have like validation seeking and you're always trying to impress your friends or impress other people or impress girls or any of that. A lot of this shit comes up. Nice guy syndrome, as he says. I had that, absolutely. I was terrified of confrontation. Now, for me, that didn't so much come up with having sex and meeting women. It absolutely came up when I started content. That was when it really had to be addressed for me. I've always had this deep fear of being criticized. I've hated confrontation. I've been terrified of it my entire life. I had to fucking face that when I started making content because you do get negative criticism. And I had to deal with that. And it was a beautiful, like I said at the start of this podcast, a beautiful gift. It was an opportunity for me to work through that shit. And it sounds like Good Looking Loser went through his own journey with that shit. So I'll scroll down a bit and we'll keep reading. He says here, the whole point of this is to let you know what may lie ahead. Yeah, basically to just prepare you and say like, look, if you get to a point where all of these insecurities are coming up and you have doubts and you think you're not going to make it and you worry that you don't deserve it and you worry that you're a loser, that's normal. Like you have to understand that is essentially what you are signing on for, no matter what your goal is. If you're going for some sort of big goal, whether that's relationships, money, sex, dating, friendships, changing the world, business, whatever it might be, you have to understand a lot of shit will come up. There's a really good movie that's very related to this whole topic called Brittany Runs a Marathon. This movie here, and I highly fucking recommend this movie. I'm probably going to do a podcast about it. Absolutely amazing movie. It's about, I won't spoil anything, but it's about a woman who goes to a doctor and the doctor's like, yo, hey, you're obese and you probably need to lose some weight. And this entire movie is a self-improvement movie. It's fucking amazing. It is literally the hero's journey. It's just a self-improvement journey. There are so many, it's such a realistic movie too. It's not like over the top. It's not Hollywood bullshit. It's like so fucking accurate of like what actually happens when you start trying to improve and the setbacks that you have and how some of your friends might be resistant to you changing. And so they try and talk you out of your goals, or they try and make you have a beer even though you're trying to lose weight. They try and get you to go out and party and do drugs and eat too much food. It's just such a fucking realistic movie. And one of the points of this movie, or one of the things that the movie sort of shows you, is all of the insecurities that come up. The woman, this woman in the movie, or the character in the movie, obviously, because she's overweight, and you'll see through the movie, she's very insecure about a lot of things. And she hides those insecurities, and I won't spoil anything, but they come up in the process of doing this shit. Some really deep, fucking hardcore insecurities. It's such an honest, authentic movie. It's a really fucking beautiful movie. And so I really hope that some of you go out and watch this movie. You can watch it on Prime Video. You'll be able to find it. Like, I can give you links if you really can't find it. It's pretty easy to find. It's a pretty popular movie, but holy shit, is it a good self-improvement movie. And more than anything, just like this Good Looking Loser article, it shows you all of the insecurities that come up when you start working on a big goal, a massive, big fucking goal. So he goes on to say, my advice is to understand, accept, embrace, and overcome the issues that pop up. Yeah, don't bottle them up. Don't say like, I'm not insecure. It's like, if you're insecure, just put your hand up and say, yo, I'm insecure as fuck. I'd like some help. Ask me. I offer coaching, obviously. You can go on our forums, which are free, and post on there. You just ask some of your friends. You can just start reading self-improvement books. You can just start working on your goals, but don't shy away from the insecurities and the doubts that will come up. And they will come up. Again, they are inevitable. As he says, be honest with yourself. The truth is, you may not know what your issues are. You might have more than you thought, or you might have less. You're probably going to find out during 2 stages, when you're trying to fuck girls and when you are fucking girls. So yeah, I'll say the same with any other goal. Like, insecurities come up in the process of, let's pick money, trying to make money, and then when you're making money. And it sounds like a weird thing, but once you actually start making money, you then have a different set of insecurities that can often come up of like, fuck, do I deserve this? Like, why are people giving me so much money? Success is coming too quickly to me. It should have taken longer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this money. I don't know if I can sustain this. Like, a fear of success, in other words. And that happens with dating, with women. It happens with weight loss. Once you start losing weight and once you've lost the weight, people have all sorts of insecurities come up of like, fuck, now people are going to treat me differently because I've lost weight. What if they say I'm arrogant or something now that I'm skinny? What if I make them uncomfortable because they're still overweight? What if they don't like me? What if I struggle to keep off the weight? What if I now have a breakdown if I happen to eat a couple of cheeseburgers or something? They come with their own set of insecurities. Success comes with its own set of insecurities. And again, that's a beautiful thing because that shit is lurking underneath the surface and currently controlling you subconsciously. It's got a hold of you. And when it comes up and you actually have a chance to face it and process it and learn to love it and work through it and be okay with these insecurities and eventually let go of them or they let go of you, man, you are just so much more in control and so much more free. And you're not controlled by your emotions and your addictions and your insecurities and your doubts and your ego and all of that shit. So it really is a beautiful fucking process. And as he says, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to love or even just like yourself. And once you really do and build social freedom, you'll be a piece of fucking unbreakable steel. That's what I'm talking about, stoicism. When you work through these insecurities, you have to understand every insecurity that you work through is like a piece of your chainmail armor. You're building up fortifications on your soul, on yourself. You are making yourself into fucking unbreakable steel. Every one of these insecurities or doubts that you process and work through. He goes on to say, it took me nearly 2 solid years. Took me, longer than that even. But he's designing stuff to help people get there or to their goals much faster. Yeah, so his approach anxiety program definitely helps that when it comes to dating women or hitting on women. I've got lots of content to help you guys get there quicker than I did for that or money or love or any of that kind of stuff that you're working on. But this process might take a little while, and that's a good thing. Every single second that you're working on your insecurities, or in other words, every single second that an insecurity comes up, is a good thing. It's a productive moment. It's really fucking good. So he goes on to say, I have a really good understanding of this shit. Even after you are a finished product, so to speak, and have this handled, getting hot pussy provides wonderful motivation and distraction and gives you confidence to continue to do work on yourself. Yep, remember that's the key. Do work on yourself, in other words, self-improvement, and continue to improve in other areas of your life. Yes, sex is not the end-all and be-all. Sex is like the first step of your journey for a lot of you. Success is contagious, yes. Some guys that don't want to become that top 1% guy, that's okay. Just be honest with yourself and we'll help you with what you need. Yeah, like don't feel like you have to be top 1% in everything, obviously. I'm not top 1% in fitness, am I? I'm not top 1% in looks. Like there are probably like 20% of my coaching clients, maybe even more than that, like probably 30% of my coaching clients look better than me. So you don't have to be top 1%. I don't know that I want to be top 1% in looks. I think maybe eventually I will. It's just not the top priority right now. But yeah, you get the point. Happiness is the key to success, not the other way around. Yeah, really good fucking point. That could be an entire video in itself. So happiness is the key to success, not the other way around. In other words, you want to love the journey. You want to be happy along the way. Right? Don't put your happiness off until you achieve the goal. Be happy that you're working towards the goal. Every day that you're making progress, be grateful for that. Be happy for that. Pause and smell the roses. You know what I mean? Remember, failure isn't an outcome. It's usually the result of not putting in enough work. What did I say at the start of this podcast? I said a lot of people who aren't successful, it's just because you're not taking enough action. And the good news is that's easy to fix. Just go take more action. And you don't have to like leapfrog all the way to the point where you're taking an insane amount of action. Just take 1% more action than you did yesterday. That's it. 1% improvement every day. If you can't do that, do 0.1% improvement every single day. Great. Congratulations. He says, I don't want to scare people or make this seem any harder than it is. That's why I said it's a beautiful thing when your insecurities come up. The fight is worthwhile. To win, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to believe in yourself. I would even say you don't have to believe in yourself. You just have to take action, and then the belief will come after. So I would actually challenge that. Believing in yourself can definitely help, absolutely. But I don't think you have to believe. I've always had doubts about every single goal that I've worked on. I've been utterly convinced I won't make it, I don't deserve it, I won't get there, blah, blah, blah. But I've just taken the action anyway. So I don't think you have to believe in yourself. I would challenge that. Your dreams are important. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. They are. Whatever goals that you might have, whatever dreams you have, whatever life you want to live, if it's something you want, make it happen. Nobody's going to come and save you and give you the life that you want. It has to be up to you. I hope goodlookingloser.com challenges you and is a catalyst to the life you want. Chris. What a wonderful article. So I really fucking love that article. I'll leave a link to it in the description. Again, it's called This Process Will Strip You Down and Force You to Confront Your Real Issues. This is my second favorite article on his website, maybe equal first. I've read this article hundreds of times. It was like a light at the end of the tunnel for me when I was going through some really tough times. So I will always be grateful to Chris for writing it. I'll be grateful to him for writing his entire fucking website. He poured so much love into his site. It's such a life-changing website. It absolutely changed my life. And any of you that are listening that think or that have said or feel like I, Andy, have helped you, you have to understand, I wouldn't have helped you if it wasn't for Good Looking Loser. Like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Good Looking Loser. So if you want to say thank you to me, I love that. I appreciate that. I'd probably rather you say thank you to Good Looking Loser. And he has a YouTube channel right now. He hasn't posted anything recently because he's been busy with his business. But you can find his website if you just type in GLL, and his username is GLL Talks. Again, his most recent video was a couple of months ago, but he's still making content. He's just taking a break at this point in time. But yeah, go and maybe jump onto one of his videos and just leave him a comment and say like, bro, thank you for your articles. Thank you for helping Andy from Kill Your Inner Loser, because he helped me. Yeah, the guy just gave away so much, valuable information, and he put so much love into his stuff. So I will permanently, forever, for the rest of my life, be grateful. I'm not going to show you guys right now because I'd have to take my clothes off, but right here on my shoulder, I have a little tattoo, and it has actually, that's the wrong shoulder. I'm an idiot. It's that shoulder. I have a little fucking tattoo that has the Good Looking Loser logo in it, and I will carry that around with me for the rest of my life because he genuinely changed my life, and I will always be grateful. So go give him a like, go say thank you. If you would like coaching, like I said, I would love to change your life and work on all of this shit with you. It's probably the thing that we work on with people the most is like positivity and self-love and the mindset side of things. Obviously, we help guys have sex and make money and lose weight and all that good stuff. But I'd say honestly, probably like 95% of coaching at this point is like mindset. Even for the guys that come to us and say, I just want to have a lot of sex. It's like, we're going to be like going through your insecurities, just like this article said. So link in the description below to coaching. I will leave a link to this article. As always, ladies and gentlemen, go out there, crush those goals, and face your issues. You will get through it, I promise, but you have to show a little bit of bravery. Don't run away from your fears. Don't run away from your insecurities. Turn towards them. If you're able to process them, that's where the real magic happens. That's where the healing happens. You can do it. I promise.